Okay, it's time to outline. And you're like, outlining? Yes, show me those Roman numerals. All right, well, hold your horses. We still have some thinking to do before we jump into outlining. So you've done your research, you know what your speech is supposed to be about, you've been thinking about your speech quite a bit, maybe not like, what's my speech going to be about? But like back in the back of your head, it's sort of like rolling around and your brain is playing with the ideas and thinking about how you want to approach this. So when it's time to sit down and go for outlining and really go for it, it's first time for you to think. So let's take a look at the difference between an organized speech and a disorganized speech. You've all sat through both, I feel certain, and you know what it feels like to sit through a disorganized speech. It's confusing, it's hard to understand. You are ready to be done with it before the speaker is finished. Whereas an organized speech is easy to follow, it's easy to understand, and most importantly, it has greater impact on the audience. And that's your purpose. You want to influence your audience in some way, whether it's talking to your kid about why their curfew can't be later, or it's talking to your boss about why you deserve the next level of management. You want to have a greater impact. In order to do that, you have to have an organized presentation. So before we jump into our Roman numerals, and we'll get to them soon, we want to do a few thought processes. So we're going to consider our purpose, we're going to consider our audience, and we're going to consider the evidence that we have. For the purposes of this mini lecture, we are just going to talk about considering your purpose. And that's because everything starts with the purpose. You could think of it as like the heart of your speech, the beating heart that guides everything else about your presentation. Now, I told you your general purpose, and I told you a little bit about your specific purpose, but you need to take that further. You need to figure out what you're hoping for your audience. So the way that I advise students to do this is to think in terms of this statement. When my speech is over, I want my audience to. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to take away? And you could think of this in three different ways. I want them to think something, I want them to do something, or I want them to feel something. Generally, if they are going to think something, they've got to feel it. And if they're going to do something, they've got to feel it. But if you just want to make them cry or make them happy or make them laugh, you could do that too. So let's take a look then at how I might go about putting together my specific purpose statement for my speech. You know, my speech is about being a bakery owner. And so when I started thinking about it, I thought, well, when my speech is over, I want my audience to know about baking. I mean, they will know about baking a little bit, but I can keep cutting away because the goal is to make this as specific as possible. So can I refine my specific purpose statement to make it even more clear? Well, okay, I'll take a stab at it. So let's do this then. When my speech is over, I want my audience to know about what life is like for a baker. Okay, that's better. That's getting closer, right? So are we talking about being a baker, or maybe, no, we're really sort of talking about owning a bakery. So I want my audience to understand the challenges and benefits of owning a bakery. And look, I'm not going to just do this bam, bam, bam. I'm going to write it down, then I'm going to let it percolate in my brain. I'm going to think about it. And I'm like, well, that's not exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. What I'm trying to accomplish is to get them to understand those challenges and benefits as it relates to being a career. So I've walked through this more general purpose down to this specific purpose. And so my specific purpose statement is going to be something like, when my speech is over, I want my audience to understand. Look at that. There's a typo, Millie, you dummy. All right. To understand bakery ownership as a career. Okay. That's my specific purpose statement. So then if I have my specific purpose statement, that easily converts itself into my thesis statement. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was in college, and even now sometimes, the idea of a thesis statement is like I have to come up with one sentence that describes my entire 7-minute speech or 5-minute speech. This seems like so much pressure. But I will tell you this, if you have taken the appropriate steps to refine and limit your specific purpose statement, your thesis statement rolls right along with it. In fact, you can almost just change the words a little bit, and make it into your thesis statement. Your thesis statement is the core message of your speech. And this is what I want you to notice. It is one thought, that is one sentence that the audience hopefully remembers. You're not asking them a question, you're telling them, this is what I want you to walk away with. And it should guide your speech development. So if we take my specific purpose statement, I want my audience to understand bakery ownership as a career, and we just mark out that first part, what I have left with is the core message of my speech. This is the whole thing I want my audience to walk away with. And so I've changed that just a little bit. I change it from thinking about what I want to what I want my audience to get. And I say, this is what I want for you. I want you to understand bakery ownership as a possible career. And boom, that's my thesis statement. Now, it looks really easy. I managed to do this in hopefully less than 5 minutes, but it takes some thought. Building an effective message is not something you just sit down and pound out really quickly. You have to let it work in your brain. And that's why you have started working on the research and the audience analysis long before you sit down and put your Roman numeral 1 on your paper. So this is what I want you to do. All the evidence that you've gathered, all the thoughts that you've had about who your audience is, take those, put them together, and think about what you're hoping to accomplish. What do you want for your audience when your speech is over? And then write it down. When my speech is over, I want my audience to. And we'll get back to this next time with, we're really going to do it. We're really going to do Roman numerals. I know you're excited. I know. All right, I'll see you soon.